And it was just in that moment I was like, I don't have a relationship with Jesus. I'm not following him, like, and I want to know, like, if however much time I have left, like, I want to know for certain that I'm going to be with him for eternity.
Rewrite. New life, new beginning.
Hey, I'm Jonathan Unthank. Welcome to another edition of the Rewrite Podcast. And my guest today, Holly Brand, a brand new artist. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Glad that you're here today. And man, tell me a little bit about, first of all, who you are.
Okay.
And we'll get into kind of the Rewrite Podcast focus of how you came to faith in Jesus. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for having me. I'm from a small town in Mississippi, so I'm a small town girl at heart, and I've been singing my whole life. I grew up singing in church, so I always knew I wanted to do music. And I did The Voice a couple of years ago, and then married my husband a month after that.
Wow.
And then 6 months after that, we moved to Nashville. So we've been in Nashville for 2.5 years. He is the offensive coordinator at Ravenwood High School, so he's a football coach. So if I'm not singing, I'm on the sidelines on Friday nights.
So yeah, let's talk about that. So you're involved in just a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
From music to life to football. Now, do you help him like game plan or anything like that?
Oh, you know me. I know everything about football.
Yeah. You saw that guy on the field. He needed to be in the other position.
The reason they win is because of me.
Yeah,
truly.
of course.
No. My husband truly is such a great coach and
Yeah.
just a great guy. So he's very talented and great at what he does, and I don't understand any of it. But I just cheer on the side and go, babe.
Yeah,
Good job.
That's awesome. That's cool. So you've been married for a couple of years now.
Almost 3 years.
That's amazing. The Voice, and getting acclimated to a situation like that, and then coming out of The Voice. What was that like? What was your hopes and dreams, after coming out of the Voice, and just, Lord, what do you have next?
It was honestly a crazy experience. I got saved when I was 14 and felt the Lord calling me to do Christian music. And I argued with him for about 6 months. And I finally was like, okay, because I grew up on country music.
Yeah.
So I really started leading worship when I was a teenager, just fell in love with all of that. And then after I did The Voice, I kind of got back into country, and I kind of had a bit of a moment where I was confused, and I didn't know what the Lord wanted me to do. And I was like, I know I kind of felt you calling me to do this when I was younger, but like, is there an opportunity here in country where I could be like Gabby Barrett and have a wider reach, or Carrie Underwood? And I just really just felt strongly that he was like, no, like the calling I have for you is in Christian music. And so I started coming to Nashville and writing, and then started building a catalog, and then signed with Integrity, and I've started releasing music recently.
That's awesome.
So the Lord really just paved the way and made it super clear. So I'm grateful for that.
What were some of the initial types of songs you would write? Is there a certain theme that kind of goes throughout all of them, or is it kind of varies?
Maybe a little bit of both. I really like to write like what's on my heart that day. If I feel like the Lord's been showing me something, or I've been learning something, I always want to try to write that, but I like to package it in a certain way. So I love how in country music they have like flip of phrases. So like the title, you might think it's going to be one thing, and when you get to the chorus, it means something completely different. So I like to incorporate that into Christian music, just some country writing elements to try to reach more people.
That's cool. I have no idea how to do stuff like that. That's like a gift.
It's like a puzzle.
It is. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it's like it's kind of like what I do at the radio station is just you put songs together that flow, or that will create a theme, or maybe a worship moment for those that are listening. So that's kind of
a little bit.
It's very similar. Because you're asking God for wisdom and direction, and what's the next step with that. Yeah. So now you're launching out there. You've got a song, I Know Somebody. What is that about?
So I wrote this song a couple of years ago. It was one of the first songs that I wrote in Nashville, and it was one of those sessions where I truly just believed that the Lord led the room, and that he just wanted to give this song to me, because we were going to write something completely different. But at the time, a friend of mine had been diagnosed with cancer, and her diagnosis was osteosarcoma near her knee joint. She had to do multiple rounds of chemotherapy and surgery, where now her ankle served as her knee, and she was only 14 at the time, so she was young. And now she's cancer-free.
Oh, wow.
But she was the somebody that I knew that was struggling. And I just couldn't imagine what it was like to be in that situation. And when you're watching somebody that you love walk through something unimaginable, you kind of feel helpless. And you want to be able to give them something to just help them keep on keeping on and get through whatever it is they're struggling with. And since then, there's been more people in my close circle that I feel like this song applies to. So beyond Charlotte, this song is very personal to me. And it's been really great to see just on social media how many people are responding to it and how they're relating to their own stories with it. I feel like that's probably the best gift as a songwriter, to see people responding and to see it helping them and providing some healing and encouragement that God is good all the time. Even the stuff that doesn't make sense, he's still God.
And it's a great opportunity. It's a conversation starter, too, when you think about, well, who's somebody? I know somebody, too. But
who's that somebody?
Yeah, that's somebody. You know, it opens it up because when we see what we all deal with in life, it's like there is hope that we can find in Jesus.
Yes.
It all points back to him. I mean,
he's bigger than all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's great. All right, so going back to your story now. We're going to go back. Okay, so tell us where you grew up.
Okay.
And tell us a little bit about your childhood. Okay. And then we're going to talk about just how you came to faith in Jesus. You know.
Amazing.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the backstory.
So I was born and raised in Meridian, Mississippi, lived there my whole life until I moved to Nashville. So I didn't know anything else outside of that small town. And my dad was a minister of music bivocationally. So I actually grew up on, of course, country music, but also Southern gospel.
Oh, yeah.
So like all the choir songs, like my dad would be practicing for Sunday morning and I'd be in the room with him singing along. So like a lot of those old Southern gospel choir songs were some of the first songs that I knew and learned how to sing.
All right, you remember some of those? Come on.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just playing.
I remember, yes, I do remember some of them, but just like those big vocals and like
Brooklyn Tab, you know, stuff like that. You know,
stuff like that.
Yeah,
that was what my dad did, and he was great.
Yeah.
So I grew up in church a lot, but I actually hated it. And I could not wait to grow up and move to Nashville and never walk in the church again. And then when I was 14, my parents forced me to join the youth worship team. And the only reason I went is because, well, I was 14. I didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But I led worship for the first time, and I just felt something different. There was something different in it, and I didn't quite know what it was. And then shortly after that, we had a guest pastor come in, and I found the Lord in the stairwell of the church that my parents met at and got married at, and which is later where I met my husband and where we got married at too.
Wow.
So very
awesome.
Full circle.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Do you remember that moment by chance, or if not, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But we all have that experience where it's like we're confronted with, I've got to make a decision. I have to make. There's this overwhelming love that I'm feeling, and I've got to embrace it into my own life.
Yeah, I remember I was with my friends, and I just remember really, really paying attention to what the pastor was saying. And basically his message was, you can't wait 10 years and say you'll follow the Lord then, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And he left us with a story of a teenager who was driving out of the church parking lot and got in a car accident and passed. And so he was like, you might only have 5 minutes left and you have no idea. And I knew at that point, like, I was always the rule follower of, like, anything my parents told me to do or they could look at me a certain way, I would just, like, do it and get in line. And so I kind of thought that I was good. And it was just in that moment I was like, I don't have a relationship with Jesus. I'm not following him, like, and I want to know, like, if however much time I have left, like, I want to know for certain that I'm going to be with him for eternity. And so I went home and I talked to my parents about it. Then we went back that night and I talked to our pastor about it. And then my mom and I prayed in the stairwell of our church, and I just accepted Jesus right there, and my life completely changed. Like, it was a complete 180, and I'm so grateful.
So after that moment, then you're finishing up high school. High school's a whole different animal. You know,
right.
when it comes, you know, we all understand that, you know,
Yeah.
just the pressures that are there. And then especially being a believer and walking out your faith each day.
Yeah.
You head to college. Where'd you go to college?
University of Alabama.
And you're with me in Knoxville today. So you remember that those SEC?
Better know I like you if I'm in Knoxville.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
I'm kidding.
I just need to sing Rocky Top for you, and then
Well,
we'll see what happens.
I'll sing Dixieland Delight.
Okay. You'll do a better job than I would. So after you graduate college, and then is that where you kind of just were like, okay, Lord, here's where I feel you leading me.
Yeah, I mean, if I had had it my way, I would have moved. I would have not even gone to college.
Yeah.
And I would have just moved to Nashville immediately at 18 and started writing. And I just felt like the Lord had some stepping stones for me that he wanted me to do first. I was involved with the Miss America organization for a long time. And so immediately after college, I competed at Miss America. And then right after that, I did The Voice. So it's kind of a lot all at once, like bang, 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 one thing to the next. But, you know, I felt like that was just the stepping stone that the Lord had for me, and he was kind of with me every step of the way. And in those moments, I would always pray, like, okay, like whenever it's time to actually, like, take the leap of faith and move and actually do this full time, like, you just let me know, and I'm ready. And it was shortly after The Voice, and my husband and I had only been married a couple of months, and I had just done a writing trip in Nashville, and right in the middle of football season, too, so perfect timing. But I came home, and I said, I really think it's time to move. And he said, okay, let's pray about it and make sure. But, you know, if that's what you're feeling, great. And then we moved that January.
Wow.
So
it's quick.
It was quick.
Quick turnaround.
We really moved on hope and a prayer that the Lord would just provide, and he did.
That's that's great. That's so good. Yeah. So now in this phase, launching new music, getting out there to, you know, you're playing in front of people, and, you know, you're able to share that message, you know, of hope that you've experienced and you've wrote about for many, many years. What's your hope now? What's your prayer? What are you asking God for?
Well, I'm asking that, you know, of course, that the Lord's will would be done over anything that I ask for. You know, I hope that he'll let this song and my music reach as many people as he wants it to. But my main prayer is that everybody who listens to my music, whether they know the Lord or not, would have an encounter with him. And so I'm hoping that believers that listen to it have an encounter with him and are encouraged. And hopefully non-believers can hear it and be encouraged, and hopefully can find the Lord through my music. So I feel like that's my main prayer. That's
great. Who is God to you today? As you're thinking about that, how's he expressed himself to you recently, where you're like, I'm locked in for the rest of my life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's those days where you're like, man, I'm just struggling. Lord, you gotta speak to me. You gotta show me something. I just need that personal encouragement. Is there something recently where he's been like, I got you?
Yeah, I really feel like right now, the word that comes to mind is just provider. There's so much that's out of my control, and I've only been, you know, adulting for a couple of years now, but, you know, all the times that I feel like I'm like, oh Lord, everything's about to fall apart, like how are you going to come through, how are you going to put this together? He always does. And like the most random weird things where you go, okay, that was God. It could have been nobody else. Especially with music too, I feel like really my only job is to be obedient in writing the songs and being willing to come out and share them. But everything else is out of my control. And so I'm really in a season where I'm really having to rely on him and just cling to him and just say, okay, like you're going to have to do what only you can do because I can't do it. So I feel like provider is probably my word.
This is Rewrite, Stories of New Life in Jesus. I'm Jonathan Unthank. If you'd like to join a community of listeners who enjoy hearing the life stories of Christian music artists and influencers, then join the Rewrite text group by texting the word Rewrite, that's REWRITE, to 81891. But more importantly, if you'd like to dig deeper into your own relationship with Jesus, you can begin that journey today by texting his name, Jesus, to 81891. God bless you. Join me next time for another episode of Rewrite.